Hello everyone and welcome to a look at the weather for the next 10 days or so. Today I thought we'd have a little look at the weather for the next 10 days in for this cold snap. I've not done one of these for a while. I do these every now and again, but today we will be having a little look at the weather for the next 10 days or so and beyond hopefully as well. We're mainly focusing on Scotland with these videos. A lot of other YouTubers and stuff focus on the UK, but we'll be specifically focusing on Scotland for these videos. And could we get a white Christmas? It's becoming more likely as the days go on, but, it's still, the less likely option. We are kind of expecting, a bit of a milder point around Christmas time, and then the cold to return in January, but that's for another video. We are going to be checking out the weather for the next. It's certainly looking, especially in Scotland, for the next 10 days. But there is a few downsides to it. There's a few things that could go wrong with it, which I'll explain as we go through the videos. Certainly looking cold for at least the next 7 days. 7 to 10 days. Probably going to stay cold in Scotland. Probably get a little bit milder in the south. But then will it extend to Christmas? That's the question that we're really scratching my head about, and I don't actually know. But these block patterns that we've got at the minute, these cold patterns, tend to stay around for several weeks, especially with the amount of blocking we've got over Greenland. But we're going to have a little look. First of all, I thought I'd update you on what November 2022 happened in November 2022. We have got a lot of mild weather. So mild weather, that's the 11th mild month this year. Every month this year has been mild. Actually, every month since spring 2021. Last month was probably around April, May time, I think, that was actually colder than average. We've not had a single colder than average month since May 2021, but December looks like it's going to break that at long last, and what the month to do it. It's the perfect month to do it, the cold month as well. But yeah, as November came out, a lot, probably around 1.5 to 2.5 degrees above average, so a very mild month. And for rainfall, we can see here it was actually above average, especially in eastern Scotland and down on the very south coast as well, and many parts of England. The only north of Scotland's coming out drier than average, so that's the exception. The latest radar imagery shows we've got a lot of snow showers packing into northern Scotland. Anywhere north of Pitlochry or anywhere north of Montrose is getting snow. Some of these may make it down to Scotland, and we've got a few hints tomorrow morning. We could have some in the south of Scotland, south of Pitlochry, for example, because that's where all the snow has been recently. Accumulations are building up in the north of Scotland as well, so that's something to bear in mind. It is quite early to be seeing compared to recent Decembers, it's quite early to be seeing this snow this early in the season, to this cold, this early in the season. It's not unusual, but it's definitely different to the last decade of Decembers, basically. If we have a look at the wind flow map, we can see here, I'm just going to skip forward to the current time. Where are we? At 1900. We are seeing here that most of the country is below freezing, especially in the west, and some parts that does extend down to the south as well. Some eastern parts are still staying quite mild, I say mild, less cold, around 1 to 3 degrees. I think the mildest we've got at the minute is probably around 4 degrees. You can see here that if we go through to tomorrow morning around 6 a.m, you can see here loads of the country is below freezing, except from Fraserburgh and places like that, but most of the west and the south, anywhere south of maybe Montrose or whatever, will be below freezing tonight. And yeah, we just keep going. These blues just keep appearing. In fact, they just intensify as we go through the weekend. And then early next week, you see a lot of purple showing as well. So that kind of shows that the wind does veer into the east a little bit. And who knows, it could even get colder. And even up to Friday night next week, you can still see that many places are still below freezing, even during the day as well. We can see here that it's still -3 in Dundee, and there is low pressure around, but you can see here it's just kind of stalled. It's down here. This is where the low pressure is. There's westerlies coming in, but it still looks pretty cold, and it looks like all the low pressure's down here in Spain actually. So that's that's definitely a pattern for colder weather. we have a little look at the temperatures for 7 o'clock. We're at 7 o'clock. This should go up in about an hour after this. So we can see here that Dundee is around 1 degree. We can see Strathallan's around 3 degrees. Aviemore at 1 degree. Not a lot of places are below freezing at the minute. There is a few down in the south, Glasgow especially, notably, at -2. It is the west that is the coldest. But yeah, there is a few places. A lot more places will go below freezing tonight. Some places didn't get below freezing last night. Just about above freezing, but I think most places, except from the very far northeast, will go below freezing. We can see here that -5 is down here in Shap, that's in Yorkshire, and many of England, most of England is actually quite cold, actually. Probably the highest we've got, 7 degrees, that's in Northern Ireland. Alright, we're going to go through the charts then. I have not seen any of these charts. The only thing I've seen is the GFS, actually. I've seen the GFS 12Z. I haven't seen the ECM, which just updated half an hour ago or so. So we're going to have a little look at the UK Met run then. So we can see here that tonight we are bringing down that northerly, and we continue to bring down that northerly tomorrow night. Is it going to update? I have no clue. It's very slow, this website. Come on, update. Please. Alright, you can see here that cold weather just intensifies. We've got this low pressure systems in the North Sea, so that could bring some showers to the east of Scotland. I think a lot of these showery activities, these troughs, are going to be very surprising. Like, you might wake up one morning, there'll be snow on the ground, you're like, hang on, that wasn't forecasted. That happens a lot in these kind of scenarios. And then you can see here as we go through, it just stays blocked. These low pressures are going down to south. They are getting in a little bit to Ireland and stuff, but it does look like it's struggling a little bit, you know. It looks like it's kind of stalling. So, in fact, we kind of renew the easterly, but this low pressure could be providing some snow in the west. Have a look at the upper air temperatures here. Anything below -5 will be snow, probably. You see here that most of the country is still in -5, except from like areas like Plymouth and stuff. But yeah, most of the country is in -5, and I suspect that low pressure is stalling a little bit, and you can see that the heights are still rising. So I reckon we probably renew the cold weather on this run. Related to the UK Met, we've got the UKV's temperature chart. So you can see here today it's been quite cold again. Tonight we are going to go down to freezing. Many places are going to go down to freezing. See there, a place like Glasgow, even -6. Like place in Yorkshire, -7. It's quite cold, quite a cold night. Definitely the coldest night probably since last winter. Maybe even the winter before that. Last winter was not cold at all. And we go down here tomorrow night, another cold night tomorrow. Like, look at that. We're seeing maximums of between 1 and 3 degrees. We can see some getting 4 degrees, but most places, a lot of places are struggling to get above freezing. And then we can go down and we can see here another cold night to come tomorrow night. Not quite as cold in like Dundee and stuff. Like, got 0 degrees probably is the lowest. It was like -2. Tonight, but yeah, tomorrow night's still another cold night. It's going to feel it. It's going to feel freezing. Get your thermals on because it's going to be cold. And then Friday is another cold day, probably an even colder day. We can see many places are even struggling to get above freezing. Remember, focusing on Scotland with this. But yeah, many places struggling to get above freezing. And then the weekend is where the cold actually intensifies a little bit more. And we can see here that many places are really struggling, like especially in the south. Like to see 1 or 2 degrees the high in the south is pretty unusual for December anyway. And then again, another cold night on Saturday night. Probably even colder actually, -4, -5 in many places. And then we go through to Sunday. It just keeps going, and then Monday an even colder day, probably 0 to 2 degrees as the maximum on Monday. So I don't think we're going to be above 2 or 3 degrees for the next week at least. So this is the precipitation. Now take these with a pinch of salt, please. They have done okay, but like they do underestimate, especially in these cold patterns, especially when we get beyond like Friday, they do kind of underestimate it. So will I get any snow in Dundee? That's the question. Let's have a look. So maybe a little bit there around tonight. 8, 9 o'clock tonight. Not much though, a little bit of snow heading down to Fife into Edinburgh as well, down to the Scottish borders around tonight. So if you want to see snow, check your windows tonight. You might miss it if you blink. And then we go through, it looks very dry tomorrow, although there is some snow showers packing in on Thursday morning. And then we keep going, it looks very dry tomorrow night, but it will be cold, so yeah. Keep going, and then there is some trying to get down, but bear in mind that the other day this UKV chart was keeping most of the showers to the north of Scotland. So to see this now, this like that, like that is kind of weird, because like, it was kind of just keeping the showers to the north of Scotland. And then we go through to the weekend, and it looks generally dry, except from like the north of Scotland. Some snow showers getting down overnight as well. There may be a little bit of snow going on in Fife and Dundee and Edinburgh area there. Some coming in. Notice it turns into the east. I suspect most of these will be snow, considering how cold the air is and how long it's been cold. And then yeah, it just keeps kind of showery, especially in the east. You can see here that like flirting with these east coast areas here on Monday, especially. And then yeah, there's not a lot of snow on Monday, but I suspect there'll be a lot more than the model's saying, because they kind of struggle to pick up long range as well. Yeah, alright, we're going to have a look at the GM now. So this is the 12Z GM that just released a few hours ago. So yeah, we can see here northerlies continuing to pat down. Is this going to update, please? Yeah, little troughs and little low pressures coming through, like shallow low pressures definitely coming through. Then the wind does turn into the east with the GM. You can see how that it's got these little low pressure system, very blocked, still very blocked up to Sunday. You can see how that is blocking area high pressure is keeping these low pressures down south. I suspect this low pressure will go south with the amount of blocking we've got. Yeah. And in fact, what this actually does is reinforce the blocking. So this actually goes up to around 1060 millibars. It's a very strong Greenland block. And we're pushing down more northeasterly winds on Thursday the 15th of December. And then it just keeps going until Saturday the 17th of December, looking very cold on Saturday the 17th of December. That is a kind of pattern that could stick around for weeks if we don't get like deep areas of low pressure trying to come in. That is the kind of pattern that could stay around for weeks. So yeah, we need to keep a close eye on that. If that starts happening, that'll be almost not a guaranteed cold Christmas, but definitely the most likely scenario for a cold Christmas. So if the GM comes off, which is unlikely to do so, but it's a variation to the same idea. But yeah, I definitely think that the models are overdoing these low pressures. Even tonight, I think there's, with the GM and the UK Met, there's definitely a shift towards colder weather tonight, I'd say. The GFS, because I think the GM was trying to bring the low in on the midnight, but they kind of, yeah, and then on tonight on the 12Z, they've kind of backed away on that a little bit, and they've gone towards cold, flip-flopping all over the place. But the models do tend to do over the break down the block way too quick, as we'll see in the GFS ensembles in a minute. And I'll give you my view on what's actually going on. So this is the GFS 12Z, so as you see here, we've got these little low pressure systems coming down from Scandinavia, and they'll continue to go on all the way through next week probably, and you can see here that this low pressure is making a little bit better progress. I'm quite surprised at that with this 1075 millibar block. Look at this, all the way from Scandinavia, stretching right over to Greenland, over to Canada. I'm quite surprised this low pressure can come in like that. Look at that. It is stalling, actually, and it's trying to get up to Greenland. I have no idea what it's trying to do with this one. It looks very weird, a very bizarre chart going on. Like, you'd think it would go down south. And yeah, you can see here that Scandinavia, it's trying to get the Scandinavian high, although I think the models are really struggling as they do in this block scenario. But yeah, this would bring us very cold weather, I'd imagine. If we have a look at the other upper air temperatures. Eventually that would bring us, it's not bringing us that much cold air. We haven't got a lot of cold air over the continent. I don't think it's that far enough north, actually. But yeah, eventually the GFS does turn mild for Christmas, actually, maybe even very mild for Christmas. But yeah, there will be that transitional period that will have some significant snow probably around the 17th or 18th if the GFS was to come off. Alright, I thought I'd show you the GFS ensembles now. So you can see here for Dundee, it's consistently below -5. So most things that fall out the sky will be snow. Although Dundee is close to the coast, so it is it's variable, but most of the time it will be snow. So that's based up until around the 18th that -5 stays. Although all of a sudden around the 20th or 19th or 20th we get this massive spike up and it goes back to average. Although the models are known in these patterns, they did it in December 2010, they did it in March 2018, they did it in all these years. Actually, we can't really say March 2018 because that was very different to this pattern. But in December 2010, they always try to revert back to the zonal westerly flash flow, the southwesterlies. That's what they know best because they deal better with southwesterlies than easterlies or northerlies blocking. And they always try and break down the blocking way too quickly. Now, I think Scotland at this point, I think Scotland's going to stay cold for Christmas. That's my thoughts. I think the south will get milder, kind of like last year. Not quite though. It's very different to last year. we can't really compare it to last year because last year we were going to start the cold around Christmas. This is more enhanced. Like this is more like we were going to start the cold around Christmas. This is more like sustained cold. So yeah, cold patterns tend to be a lot more difficult to get rid of. It's a lot more stubborn, this pattern. You will get milder bits and pieces in between, but I think personally, I think the cold's going to stay until Christmas, maybe even the New Year. I think it's going to be a very cold December for Scotland, definitely. And I think the model is trying, around this point, you could really see the model's really struggling here. Like around this point, 16, 17, it wants to bring low pressure systems in. They're always known to do this. They want to bring low pressure systems in. But the amount of blocking we've got over Greenland, it's really difficult to see why it would break it down that quick. You can just see here around this operational run. See here, we've got so much blocking around the 15th, a 1065 millibar. You'd think the low pressure would go down south and renew the easterly. But no, what do we do? Oh yeah, we're going to throw the low pressure up to Greenland and we're going to strengthen the polar vortex randomly. Like, that makes no sense. It makes no sense to me. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on it. You may agree, you may not, but yeah, that's my thoughts on it. So yeah, I think it's going to stay cold to Christmas for Scotland anyway. Yeah, I'm not going to make any comment on England. It's just me. Yeah, so we're going to have a look at the ECM here. This is going to be a very interesting run because a lot of people on Twitter especially are waiting for this run. They're saying, I think, personally, what I think here, what's going to happen, I'm going to make my bet. I think the low definitely goes south on this one. They're known to flip-flop the ECM at the minute, so we'll see. Alright, so we go through, we keep that northerly going. We've got low pressure in the North Sea that will bring eastern areas, definitely some snow on Friday into Saturday. And then we can see how this blocking is very strong over Greenland. And we can see how the low pressure is stalling. It's really stalling on Monday. So what actually happens? Oh, this is very interesting. This is interesting. We've got a northerly getting renewed, low pressure, loads of it in Scandinavia. We've got a lot of blocking over Greenland. The low pressure is struggling. It's going south. Look at that. That is perfect. I'm not quite sure about this random low pressure getting strengthened over Greenland, but yeah, that looks pretty good for cold weather, actually. I think that would probably stay till Christmas, especially in the north. See how the upper air temperature looking very cold. Maybe a snow event down south as well. Not far away from very cold air as well. It looks very interesting, that ECM run. ECM's gone back to cold weather after it went to mild on their midnight run. After going very cold last night on their 12Z. What do we make of this? I have no idea. I think the models are over blowing the low pressure though, and I think it will stay south. And that's not because what I want to happen, but I think that's what will happen because history has taught us that's what usually happens with the models. Alright, I hope you've enjoyed this little 12Z update. It's been a little while since I've done it. It's a very interesting period to do it in as well. So yeah, that's going to do it for this episode. We may be back before Christmas with another one, but yeah, I thought I'd bring you this special little update. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. If you want to keep up to date with other videos on my channel and the main channel as well, please subscribe. See you in the next episode. Bye.